All right, welcome back, everybody. Ellis Cannon. We've had a fast and furious few segments here, and we're going to do that to the top of the hour. We're joined by Suzanne and Gene Vincent, and we're going to be talking to our good friends in just a moment. In the meantime, Rick Earl had a report for WPXI related to Cherrie Mahan and the recent developments in that case.
Well, Peggy, this lead ended like all the others. State police still don't know what happened to 8-year-old Cherrie Mahan after 26 years. But this time with this lead, we got a much closer look at all of the information because the tipsters came to us too. Now, state police launched an investigation after Target 11 received new information from several sources in Michigan that claimed they spotted Cherrie Mahan and that she was now a woman living in Michigan. So we traveled to the state of Michigan to investigate, talk to witnesses, and also track down the woman in question. She told us she was not Cherrie Mahan. We took all of the information to police, who began an investigation, said they had a lot of questions, and were very interested in DNA evidence to rule her out. Now, with the help of Michigan police, investigators tell me the woman in question today provided a birth certificate, and investigators also went to the school where she graduated and looked at school pictures in her file from as early as kindergarten, confirming that she lived in Michigan then. Now, investigators who initially indicated they wanted DNA now say there's no need for it. The birth certificate and pictures are apparently enough for them to close the book on this new lead. Now, you may also recall that there was another highly publicized lead in this case back in January. Police at the time said someone walked into the Butler barracks with potentially crucial information in this case. I am told tonight that that information didn't pan out either. That is the very latest reporting live in the newsroom. Rick Earl, Channel 11 News.
All right, there you have it. That's the what. Those recent developments raised hopes in a lot of respects, but unfortunately, they do not appear to be going anywhere. Suzanne Vincent, Gene Vincent, we always enjoy our time together. Ladies, how are we?
How are you, Alice?
Okay, I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Good. I want to talk to you about this case, this bizarre case that happened down in Houston. Obviously, you guys are psychic criminal investigators, and we've talked to you about playful things in the past and serious things. These are three serious ones. We throw in Casey Anthony. But as you saw right there, when something happens that long ago, I suspect that until there's full resolution, if you will, one way or the other, you're going to have these types of things come up. Have you had engagements where, in fact, you've seen or felt or otherwise been able to submit information to people over the years in that regard?
Oh, yes. We submitted some information about the Cherrie Mahan missing person case. And my sister and I, we actually profiled a profile of who we think did it. And we also think that she's probably about 10 miles from where she disappeared in the Cabot, Saxonburg area. Yeah. So I feel that our tips that we've given to law enforcement and the mother are going to help to bring closure for the family. I feel she's dead, and she's been dead for 26 years. Yeah, she was
last seen on the school bus, getting off the school bus, I believe. What do you make when these developments happen? I mean, we look at it as just people clicking and watching and as viewers, but with your background, what goes through your mind when you see those types of tips?
Those types of tips, all tips are needed, that you need to be out there, need to be aware to help find Cherrie if she's still out there. But I feel she's already passed over. I feel she is in Butler County. So I'm always hopeful, but I knew when I heard the report that it wasn't going to be a match, but you need to still pursue it even after like 30-some years to bring Cherrie home. She's our girl.
Yes. How unusual is it, or is it usual for cases that are cold or been out there that long, that are not officially closed, so to speak, that you have these types of things happen where you have a tip? Maybe we don't see them on television. Maybe Rick Earl doesn't do it. Maybe it's Utah or somewhere else. How often do those cases sometimes have, as part of their history, developments like this?
10% of people are usually found. The rest are never found of missing persons, just 10%. And just recently, Jeannie and I solved a case in Pocomoke City, Maryland, where the girl was missing for 3 years. And in our tips, they brought the girl, they found her body, and the guy just got first-degree murder last week for her death. So it's only about 10% of people find their daughters and bring them home.
And Jean, when she just mentioned now that that you guys have a pretty firm belief on what happened and where and so forth, how do you come to that conclusion?
It's just a faith in God that we're like a vessel to help, get closure for the family, and just a feeling that we have. And with law enforcement, we never know where things are going to pan out, but, we do give the information, we do volunteer it, and we've been very accurate with it. And with Cherrie Mahan, we feel she's here with the Christine Shetty. That took 3 years in the making, and they did recover her body. And I remember telling her mother, Lynn Dodenhoff, that yes, we would recover Christine's body. It took 3 years, but we found her exactly how we said, in a dirt sand mix. And
I can't imagine that's gratifying in the sense that that's the end that you want. But on the other hand, I would imagine these families, it's a word I don't use particularly, but closure, it gives them some sense of that, doesn't it? It does give them closure. It's very sad working with this type of situation with the missing or the abducted, whatever, or even cold case. It's never a happy outcome, except for the closure or except for, you know, a funeral. And these police, these law enforcement officials, they welcome this type of stuff, don't they?
Yes, it gives them a chance to meet with us, and maybe we have a profile that we're talking about of somebody, and they go, wow, that could be Bob, and I'm going to take a second look at Bob. Maybe he has like 15, 20 suspects, but we bring information that he can maybe take a second look at. Maybe the kind of car, or maybe what kind of job he had, or something like that.
And so, there's no time limit in your world. In other words, if you feel there's something out there, Gene, that pops up, it could be 25 years after disappearance. I mean, that's fresh. I mean, you could throw that to anybody out there in law enforcement, correct?
Yes, and it's like peeling a layer of onion. When we do start with the cases, we'll get an initial vibe with something, and then we'll revisit it, and we'll compare our notes. If she has the same thing and I have the same thing, we know in that category that's almost 100%. And then we'll fine-tune the rest. And things do come at you when you revisit things, you know, for cold cases.
All right, we're going to go to Florida next. We'll talk about Casey Anthony, and well, now to the Southwest, Houston, where there was investigation off a tip that didn't work out. We'll do that in the last segment. I'm Ellis Cannon. You're watching Night Talk at PCNC. The Casey Anthony case down in Florida continues to get a lot of headlines, of course, and we have some update for you, as a matter of fact, before we get back to the Vincent sisters, two of our favorite guests, and that would be from Jay Gray of NBC News.
Good morning. You may be seated.
Monday morning, and more legal bickering between attorneys in the Casey Anthony trial.
I will be presenting the court with additional requests for sanctions.
It's not bad enough that he wants to omit these responsibilities in the efforts of taking a human life. He wants to go after her lawyer too. And I think it is repulsive.
The frustration level for Judge Belvin Perry continues to climb.
Yes, there have been gamesmanship in this particular case, and it is quite evident that there is a friction between attorneys. Enough is enough.
It's frustration that lingers from the weekend, much of it focused on defense attorney Jose Baez.
What you're basically saying, sir, is that you can pick which court orders you comply with and which court orders you don't comply with, okay? And this is not a game.
Saturday, Dr. William Rodriguez was pulled from the witness stand when the judge determined he had shared his analysis of the alleged murder weapon, duct tape, with Baez, but not the state's attorneys, as required by law.
It appears to me that this was quite intentional.
After a request by prosecutors to review a Saturday deposition, Dr. Rodriguez's testimony was delayed today, and after another meeting with attorneys in the judge's chambers, day 22 of this trial came to an abrupt end.
We will be in recess until 9 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Without a single witness called to testify, but with the tension in the courtroom clearly rising. Judge Perry has told the attorneys that the Saturday court sessions will now go from a half day to a full day, and if they still can't pick up the pace, he says he'll extend the weekday hours as well. Jay Gray, NBC News, Orlando.
Okay, so that's turning into a full-blown circus. Jane, very quickly, as it relates to this, you sisters were involved in this, and you have an opinion.
We were involved in this late August, early September in 2008, and our opinion was, we did profile, my sister and I, that Casey did contribute to her daughter's death and did have an accomplice, and also my sister and I also had the feel that she was suffocated as a means to her death.
We saw the duct tape testimony over the weekend, that it wasn't something used as a death weapon, so to speak, that it was used post-death. Obviously, this is a huge stage. I mean, when you get engaged in that type of thing, just briefly give us a sense of how that comes about and what, in fact, you ultimately do to get to that conclusion.
Jeannie and I, usually we will talk with some of the people involved sometimes, and we'll get their energy from the aura. And sometimes we actually get into where we see visions of the crime scene and visions of who, the suspects are. And then we will go to like Google and Maps and start looking for our visions. And one of the big visions was for us was that it was about a quarter of a mile to a half a mile from where she lived at, because we knew that Casey had killed her daughter. And so we knew it was near a school and also abandoned house and a field. So what happened was we looked up onto the Google map, and we seen Suburban Drive and Chickasaw had patches of abandoned fields or open fields. And so, they sent law enforcement down there to look, but it was underwater. And Dominic Casey had proceeded to keep going back to the area to see, if the body was there.
Right.
But the big thing was profiling. We did pick up that she was sedated with either cough medicine or chlorophyll or something like that, or actually something was over her mouth, either smothered or duct tape.
All right, and one last thing, and I got about 20 seconds, but obviously we had a situation in Houston that had a lot of attention because of a psychic's tip. It didn't turn out to be anything. I call it occupational hazard, but sometimes these things happen, and you've got about 10 seconds to say, yeah, sometimes these things happen.
When we work with law enforcement, the first thing we say, nothing's guaranteed, but we do volunteer, and we've always been accurate. We've either always got our man through profiling or found our body.
Okay.
It's never happened to us, ever.
All right, well, keep up the good work, ladies. All right, have a great night, everybody. You're watching PCS.